How many times have you asked yourself, how can I change my life? We hear this advice everywhere. Change the way you think, be more positive, and control your emotions. But the truth is, real transformation goes far beyond motivational words. It starts with our very own brain, where every habit, action, emotion, and ultimately our destiny is shaped day by day. Modern neuroscience gives us a powerful hope. Our brains can change, can rebuild new neural pathways if we truly know how to focus in the right way, with enough depth. This is not so different from what the Stoic philosophers have emphasized for thousands of years. If you can control your attention, you can control yourself and your entire world. In this video, I'll guide you on a journey to reclaim the power of focus, a force that can change your brain, and with it, your actions, emotions, and future. Together, let's explore these principles of focus, connecting ancient wisdom with modern science, so your life can truly transform from the inside out. 1. You can rewire your brain. Imagine your mind as a living, breathing garden. For years, you may have believed that your garden was planted once and for all, that its pathways, beds, and even its weeds were set in stone. But modern neuroscience reveals a reality that is both more challenging and more hopeful. Your brain, just like a garden, can be reshaped, replanted, and renewed at almost any stage of life. This concept is called neuroplasticity, and it stands as one of the most revolutionary discoveries about the human mind. Neuroplasticity is the brain's remarkable ability to reorganize its structure and functions in response to experiences, learning, and even conscious effort. This means that every time you decide to learn a new language, play a musical instrument, or even try to break a bad habit, you are quite literally changing the wiring of your brain. Old connections can weaken and new ones can flourish so long as you consistently nurture the change you want to see. Consider the challenge of learning a foreign language as an adult. In the beginning, the sounds and grammar might feel like a dense, impenetrable brush. You stumble, forget words, and frustration sets in. Yet, with sustained effort, the brain starts to lay down new neural pathways. It builds connections between regions responsible for memory, speech, and even emotional expression. Over time, what once seemed foreign becomes familiar. The new language starts to feel natural, and the old resistance fades away. It's not magic, it's the living science of neuroplasticity in action. This ability to rewire the brain is not reserved for the extraordinary. It's available to anyone willing to persist, even in the face of setbacks. Neuroscientist Eleanor Maguire's groundbreaking 2000 study on London taxi drivers illustrates this truth vividly. Maguire and her colleagues at University College London found that the hippocampus, a brain region critical for navigation and memory, was significantly larger in taxi drivers than in the general population. The reason? These drivers spent years memorizing the complex labyrinth of London streets, forcing their brains to adapt. The longer the experience, the greater the physical change. This study is not just a curiosity, it is living proof that sustained focus and learning can physically alter the architecture of the adult brain. But the story of neuroplasticity is not limited to mastering new skills or knowledge. It is also about letting go. Just as you can cultivate a rosebush where there was once a thicket of weeds, you can slowly dismantle unhelpful habits and ways of thinking. For anyone who has ever tried to break a cycle of procrastination, anxiety, or even addiction, the early stages can feel impossible, like hacking at roots that have run deep for years. Yet with patience and repeated effort, those old neural circuits begin to weaken, making room for new, healthier patterns to grow. These processes do not happen overnight. The work of rewiring the brain is gradual and often uncomfortable, as it asks us to move beyond the well-trodden paths of habit. But within this discomfort lies hope. The possibility for change remains alive as long as we remain willing to return again and again to the practice. In the words of the Stoic philosopher Epictetus, "No man is free who is not master of himself." This wisdom, though ancient, speaks directly to the modern science of neuroplasticity. Mastery over oneself is not granted in a single moment of insight. It is earned through the persistent, humble cultivation of new ways of thinking, feeling, and behaving. Epictetus's insight reminds us that freedom is not the absence of difficulty, but the capacity to choose how we respond to challenge. Each time you decide to turn your attention to a new skill, each time you resist slipping back into an old habit, you are taking the reins of your own brain. It is a slow and imperfect process, filled with setbacks and doubts. Yet, it is also an act of hope, a belief that today's effort is shaping a stronger, more resilient mind for tomorrow. What does this mean for your life? It means that you are not sentenced to live forever with the habits, thoughts, or limitations you carry today. You have the capacity to update, adapt, and thrive. Whether you're learning something new, overcoming something old, or simply striving to become a little more yourself, the science is clear. Your brain can be rewired. The most important thing is to begin, to persist, and to trust that every small act of focus is quietly planting seeds for a future you can shape. One thought, one action, one day at a time. 2. Conditions for brain change. Change is often celebrated as the essence of growth. We live with the hopeful idea that every new experience, every lesson, will somehow mold us into better versions of ourselves. But the truth, supported by both modern neuroscience and the hard-won wisdom of philosophers, is that not all experiences have the power to transform us. Simply going through the motions, studying for hours, attending classes and listening to advice does not guarantee that our brain or our life will genuinely shift. Real change, at its core, depends on something much deeper: focused attention and the right inner conditions. Neuroscience has unlocked many secrets about how the brain changes itself, a phenomenon known as neuroplasticity. But here's what is often missed in the noise of self-help books and productivity hacks. The brain only rewires itself under very specific circumstances. For change to take root, it is not enough to merely expose ourselves to new information or activities. The key lies in how much we truly pay attention. Our brains are, in a sense, gatekeepers. They only open the door to change when they sense something is meaningful, relevant, or urgent. Consider a common scenario. You're studying for an important exam, but you do so with music in the background, your phone buzzing, and your mind drifting in and out. Hours may pass, but when you close your notebook, little of what you've studied sticks. It's not because you lack intelligence, discipline, or time. It's because your brain hasn't received a clear signal that this experience matters. Without that signal, the neurons responsible for memory and learning remain largely unchanged, as if the experience never really happened at all. What is this signal? It comes down to attention, real, undivided, and purposeful. When we focus deeply on something, our brain releases a surge of neurochemicals, primarily epinephrine, adrenaline, and acetylcholine. These substances are not just scientific jargon. They are messengers that shout to our brain, "Pay attention, this is important." Epinephrine heightens our alertness, making us more receptive to new information, while acetylcholine marks certain neural pathways for long-term change. In the absence of these chemicals, even the most intense experiences can slip through the cracks of memory. Let's bring this closer to home. Think about the last time you tried to memorize a list while half watching television or scrolling through your phone during a conversation. Later, when you tried to recall what you learned or what your friend said, your mind came up blank. This isn't forgetfulness, it's biology. The brain simply didn't receive the necessary tags to file away that moment as meaningful. This is why multitasking, despite its modern appeal, so often leads to shallow learning and weak memories. On the other hand, moments of true focus have the power to reshape us. When you study in silence, shutting out distractions, your attention sharpens and your brain responds. You may feel a gentle tension, the sense that your mind is stretching, reaching, almost struggling. This is the exact state in which change occurs. Your brain is bathed in the right neurochemicals. Connections between neurons are strengthened, and old pathways are pruned away. Over time, this is what leads to new habits, skills, and even new personalities. Change is not just about repetition, it's about the quality of presence you bring to each repetition. The ancient philosophers sensed this truth long before scientists could scan a brain. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." This simple sentence holds a profound lesson. Not every thought carries the same weight. Not every moment holds the same power. It's the focused, intentional thoughts, the ones that come from true attention, that have the strength to alter the course of our lives. When Marcus Aurelius says the quality of your thoughts, he points us back to the moments when we are truly present, truly engaged. Only then can our brains, and by extension, our lives, transform in a meaningful way. So, how do we use this knowledge? It begins with honesty. If you want to change, you must be willing to give your attention to what matters. You have to be present, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally. You have to create conditions where distractions are minimized and intention is maximized. This might mean putting your phone in another room when you need to focus, turning off notifications, or setting aside specific times each day to practice undivided attention. Real brain change and real personal transformation are never accidents. They are acts of will, supported by an environment where attention is not scattered, but gathered and focused like a beam of light. The science is clear, and the wisdom of the ages agrees. If you want your life to change, start by giving your attention truly, deeply to the things that matter most. Only then can you expect your brain to follow, opening the path to lasting transformation. 3. Attention is key. If we want to change our minds, we must first learn to change our attention. It is easy to get lost in the noise of daily life, With distractions at every turn, social media, relentless notifications, and 1,000 tasks pulling us in different directions. But the truth is simple and powerful. Only the experiences we immerse ourselves in, with full, undivided attention, have the potential to reshape the very wiring of our brains. This is not just a poetic idea, but a finding rooted in neuroscience. The brain's ability to adapt, what scientists call neuroplasticity, is not automatic. It is sculpted by what we focus on, by the force of our attention, moment to moment. To understand why attention is so powerful, we must first recognize that our habits, both good and bad, are formed in the fertile soil of repeated action. But repetition alone is not enough. You can go through the motions 1,000 times, but if your mind is elsewhere, the change will never last. Lasting transformation begins the moment you truly notice what you're doing and why. For anyone seeking to build better habits or break free from harmful patterns, the first step is brutally honest self-awareness. Seeing clearly what you want to change and then channeling your attention towards that goal again and again until it becomes second nature. Consider, for example, the practice of mindfulness meditation. At first glance, sitting quietly and observing your breath may seem almost trivial, a simple act with little consequence. But beneath the surface, a profound process is unfolding. By gently returning your attention to the breath, each time your mind wanders, you are rewiring your own brain for presence and focus. Over time, you develop a sharper awareness of your thoughts, your emotions, your impulses. You gain the ability to pause and choose your response, rather than being swept away by every passing feeling. This is not an abstract theory, but a lived experience, proven in thousands of scientific studies and, perhaps more convincingly, in the lives of ordinary people who have used meditation to regain control over anxiety, addiction, or stress. The power of attention is not limited to the meditation cushion. It shows up everywhere in the stories of individuals who have achieved remarkable change by learning how to focus. Take the example of Michael Phelps, the legendary Olympic swimmer. Early in his life, Phelps struggled with attention deficit and turbulent emotions. Swimming became both his discipline and his refuge. Under the watchful eye of his coach, he was taught not just to practice laps, but to visualize every movement, to concentrate on every detail of his performance. Each day, he rehearsed his races in his mind with unwavering focus, imagining every possible scenario, every stroke, every turn. By the time he dove into the pool in real life, his attention was razor-sharp, his mind immune to distraction. This deep, deliberate focus allowed him to break world records and become one of the most decorated athletes in history. It was not just physical talent that set him apart, but his capacity to focus with intensity, turning his attention into a tool for transformation. Between every stimulus and our response, there is a gap, a moment in which we can choose where to direct our attention. Most people miss this gap. They react automatically, pulled along by habits and old patterns. But those who learn to pause, to notice what is happening inside them, discover a space of freedom and possibility. They become the authors of their own responses. This is where true change begins, and it all hinges on attention. The ancient philosophers recognized this long before neuroscience gave it a name. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." This insight is timeless. Whatever you repeatedly bring your attention to, whether it is fear or courage, resentment or gratitude, will shape not only your emotions, but the very fabric of your character. Marcus reminds us that attention is not a passive act, but an active process of coloring the mind moment by moment with the qualities we choose. Yet focusing attention is neither easy nor automatic in our fast-paced world. It takes effort, humility, and often the courage to begin again every time we fail. But it is a skill anyone can build, starting right now. Begin with small moments. Notice your breath. Truly listen to a friend. Pay attention to a single task without reaching for your phone. With time, these moments accumulate. They forge new neural pathways, building a mind that is present, resilient, and capable of real change. In the end, the key to changing your brain and your life is not willpower alone, but the steady, intentional practice of choosing what deserves your focus. Your attention is your greatest power. How you use it determines not just what you see, but who you become. 4. How to create attention and focus. A Go player sits in silence, eyes fixed intently on the black and white stones. Around them, the room fades away, the hum of voices, the ticking of a clock, even the beating of their own heart, until only the board and the dance of possibility remain. This is not mere concentration. It's the art of creating attention so deep and clear that every move flows from a wellspring of purpose. Whether it's a chess master contemplating their next move or a musician absorbed in a melody, this kind of focus is not a talent one is born with. It is a skill, a craft to be shaped, honed, and chosen. But how do we reach that state where the world narrows to a single meaningful point, where our attention and our intentions move in harmony? The first step is honesty, asking ourselves, what exactly do I want to change? And why? Goals that matter, that truly call for our attention, are never generic. They carry the weight of our own hopes, fears, and pride. Sometimes our drive comes from the love we feel for someone or something. Sometimes it rises from the discomfort of not wanting to repeat old mistakes. Sometimes it's the quiet dignity that tells us we're capable of more. Clarity of motivation is the soil from which strong attention grows. When you know your why, your focus is not something forced, it's pulled toward its target like a magnet. Yet intention alone is not enough. The modern world is a minefield of distractions. Devices buzz, notifications flash. The mind jumps from worry to pleasure and back again. So how do we bring ourselves back to what matters? Start with the body, start with the senses, especially sight. Neuroscience tells us that our visual focus powerfully shapes our mental focus. When we choose to look steadily at a single point in space, whether it's a chess piece, a line of text, or even the flame of a candle, our brain begins to filter out irrelevant noise, sharpening our attention on the task at hand. This isn't a mystical practice. It's a simple technique, but its effects are profound. The act of holding your gaze is like telling your mind, this is what matters right now. It's worth pausing here to reflect on a truth voiced centuries ago by Marcus Aurelius, one of the great philosopher-emperors. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. The wisdom here is direct. While we cannot control every chaos or disturbance in the world, we always have the choice to return to our own attention, to guide it and claim it as our own. This is not easy in a world that profits from your distraction, but it is possible, and the reward is a sense of strength that can outlast the stormiest day. When you make this choice again and again, you reshape your brain's wiring, cultivating a focus that becomes both armor and compass. Vision is only one channel, however. Attention can be shaped through hearing as well. There are times when the mind is scattered, when sounds, voices, and background chatter threaten to fragment our inner space. In those moments, a simple act like closing your eyes can work wonders. By shutting out the visual world, we allow the brain to channel more resources to listening. Musicians and language learners often use this trick instinctively. Suddenly the melody is clearer, the words more vivid. What's really happening is this. By narrowing our sensory input, we gather our attention into a smaller, brighter beam. Every time we intentionally do this, we are training the mind to obey our will, not the whims of the world. But theory alone isn't enough. Life gives us countless chances to practice. Think of the moments before a crucial move in a game when all you see is the board, or the moments in a conversation where, to really hear someone, you block out the world and give them the fullness of your attention. In both cases, the habit is the same. You are choosing, with your senses and your mind, what deserves to matter most. The journey of mastering your attention does not demand perfection or superhuman willpower. Instead, it asks for gentle persistence, a willingness to return again and again to what's truly important. Each time you notice yourself drifting and gently bring your attention back, you are rewiring your brain little by little for deeper focus. This process isn't about harsh discipline or rigid routines. It's about honoring your own motives, using simple tools of sight and sound, and allowing your brain the chance to settle into meaningful work. In the end, the quality of our lives is shaped not so much by the storms outside, but by how we guide the light of our attention. To change your brain, begin by choosing your focus deliberately, kindly, and with the knowledge that you alone hold this power. The world will try over and over to claim your mind for its own, but your greatest strength lies in claiming it back, one moment, one breath, one clear look at a time. 5. Focused time management. Time is the only currency you can never reclaim. Yet, in a world that idolizes busyness and endless hustle, we often mistake long hours for real productivity, blurring the line between effort and effectiveness. We are told that focus is the master key to achievement, but so many of us chase it with methods that run counter to how our minds and bodies truly function. The paradox is simple. By forcing ourselves to focus for hours on end, we not only exhaust our attention, but also rob ourselves of the deep, restorative rest that is the true fuel of creativity and change. Modern neuroscience sheds new light on this. Our brains are not machines meant to run endlessly. Instead, they operate in cycles of alertness, followed by necessary periods of rest and renewal. The ideal window for deep concentration is not infinite. Research suggests that our peak focus lasts about 90 minutes, and even within that, our sharpest attention usually arrives somewhere in the middle. Pushing beyond this natural rhythm doesn't make us stronger. It wears us down, turning productive time into little more than distracted struggle. Recognizing and respecting these cycles is not a sign of weakness, but a mark of wisdom. Let's turn this idea into practice. Consider the Pomodoro technique. a popular method where you work intently for 25 minutes and then break for 5 minutes, repeating the cycle several times before taking a longer pause. At first glance, it might appear simple, even trivial, to stop just as you're gaining momentum. But this pattern is more than a hack. It mirrors the biological cycles our brains are wired for. Each focused burst is like sharpening a blade, while each break is a moment to breathe, reset, and return stronger. Over time, these intervals build a reservoir of resilience and discipline far greater than any marathon session. Take, for example, the story of Cal Newport, a computer science professor and acclaimed author. Newport is known for his deep work philosophy, the idea that undistracted focus is the core of extraordinary results. But even Newport does not lock himself in a room for hours without relief. Instead, he rigorously plans his deep work sessions, limiting them to 90-minute windows and always stepping away when the time is up, no matter how in the zone he might feel. This isn't laziness, it's strategy. Newport found that by honoring his brain's cycles, he produced higher quality work and avoided the mental fatigue that plagues so many knowledge workers today. His example stands as a living testament. The way to transform your output isn't by working longer, but by working with more intention and with respect for your mind's limits. Why is this approach so effective? Because attention is not a static resource, it is dynamic, ebbing and flowing like the tides. The more we push against its natural boundaries, the less we get from each moment. Breaks are not signs of weakness, nor are they indulgences. They are essential steps in the dance of productivity. During rest, the brain integrates knowledge, repairs itself, and sets the stage for new insights. Without these intervals, our ability to focus collapses under its own weight, and our minds wander into the wastelands of distraction. This lesson is as old as philosophy itself. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and philosopher, once said, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment." In the context of time management and focus, this wisdom reminds us that our frustration often comes not from the reality of breaks or limits, but from our belief that relentless effort is the only way forward. If we can change this belief, if we can see rest and renewal as vital partners to focused action, we regain control over our productivity, our well-being, and ultimately our lives. So, the next time you sit down to work, don't measure your success by the number of hours chained to a desk. Instead, pay attention to your cycles of energy. Use focused intervals, followed by deliberate breaks. Experiment with methods like Pomodoro, or simply observe when your attention starts to fade and step away for a few minutes. Reflect on what habits truly move you forward and which simply tire you out. In doing so, you'll discover that managing time isn't about squeezing every second dry. It's about honoring the flow of attention, resting when needed, and returning to your purpose with new clarity. Ultimately, true change doesn't happen in a rush. It unfolds in the quiet discipline of daily rhythm, focus, rest, reflection, and then focus again. This is how you change your brain, and with it, your life. 6. Sleep and deep rest help solidify the change. Imagine this. You've just spent an hour in deep concentration, perhaps struggling to grasp a new language, mastering a complicated piano piece, or pushing yourself through a mentally demanding project at work. You finish your session feeling exhausted, your brain buzzing with effort. But here's a question worth pondering. When does the real change actually happen inside your brain? Is it during those moments of sheer effort and focus? Or could it be that transformation works its magic elsewhere, quietly, when you're not even aware of it? The answer, surprisingly, lies in what happens after you finish focusing. Most of us believe that the hard work is done when we're in the zone, eyes locked on the problem, willpower burning. But modern neuroscience tells a more nuanced and hopeful story. The deep wiring, the lasting changes in the architecture of your brain actually get forged in the hours when you are asleep or deeply resting. In other words, your brain learns and rewires, not only during active effort, but even more so in the silence that follows. Let's dig deeper. When you practice something intensely, whether a new habit, a new skill, or even a new way of thinking, you are sending strong signals through particular neural pathways. It's like treading down grass in an overgrown field. The more you walk the path, the clearer it becomes. But even if you walk it repeatedly in the day, the true moment when that path becomes a solid, reliable trail isn't while you're consciously using it. It's later, when your conscious mind is finally silent, that your brain gets to work on reinforcing what you've practiced. This is the miracle of sleep, and it is echoed in the wisdom of both science and philosophy. While you drift into deep rest, your brain sifts through the events of the day, strengthening important connections and pruning away what is unnecessary. Neuroplasticity, the brain's capacity to reshape itself, is turbocharged during deep sleep. It's not just an idle process. It's when learning, healing, and adaptation are literally built into your biology. In those hours, everything you practiced is replayed, sometimes even at a faster speed, as if your brain is rehearsing for a grand performance. Motor skills, facts, emotions, all are sorted, organized, and either cemented or gently let go. Now consider what happens if you ignore this need for rest. Imagine a student cramming for an exam through the night, convinced that more hours of study mean more knowledge. The irony is that without sleep, most of what was so desperately memorized simply dissolves away. The brain cannot anchor what it never had a chance to process. This isn't just true for students. It applies to all of us, whether we're building new habits, trying to shift our emotional reactions, or changing the way we approach life's challenges. But sleep isn't the only path to deep rest. Even if you cannot nap or sleep immediately after intense focus, you can still harness the power of deep rest without sleep. This can be as simple as lying down, closing your eyes, and letting your mind wander. You don't have to meditate in any rigid sense. Just allow yourself to be still, undisturbed, for 10 or 15 minutes. Neuroscientists have found that these restful moments, free from external input, can initiate the same kinds of brain processes that occur in sleep. In these moments, the mind drifts, connections are quietly formed, and insights may bubble up unexpectedly. The ancient Stoics, even without the language of neuroscience, recognized the power of retreat and stillness. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." In these words, he was not just suggesting escape from noise, but guiding us toward inner spaces where real change can settle. The quiet within, whether in sleep or deliberate rest, is where our intentions are forged into lasting transformation. In pausing, we grant our minds the sanctuary to integrate all that we strive to become. So, if you are serious about changing your brain, about truly reshaping habits, thoughts, or skills, don't overlook the gentle power of rest. Guard your sleep as fiercely as your hours of productivity. After a period of intense focus, give yourself permission to unplug, to close your eyes, to wander into a moment of stillness. These are not wasted hours. They are the sacred intervals in which your brain does its most essential work. In a world obsessed with constant action and relentless self-improvement, it is tempting to treat rest as a weakness or luxury. But the science and the oldest philosophies teach us otherwise. Real change happens in the quiet. In honoring rest, we give our efforts a chance to truly take root. And when you wake, you may find that you have quietly, almost effortlessly, become someone new. Changing your brain and your life isn't a quick fix, but it's also not out of reach. As we've discussed, the real key lies in focusing your attention the right way and using it like a switch to activate real change. Combine that focus with smart breaks and daily practice, and you'll see progress step by step. Stoicism reminds us, control your attention, and you control your emotions, your actions, even your destiny. Neuroscience proves that you absolutely can reshape your brain, starting with whatever you most want to change. So, what will you choose to focus on first? What's the one habit or thought you want to rewire? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your story. If you found value in this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more practical Stoic wisdom. Your journey starts now with just one focused minute today.